Ladies and gentlemen, this is Molly Rulin. I am reporting live from ShePodcasts Live in Atlanta, Georgia, representing Heartcast Media, One Love Massive, and of course, Podcast Outfitters. I am very excited to be sitting here with Bea Spadacini. Woo! I got it right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, excellent. I'm excited to sit with you today and learn more about your organization and what's going on. So tell me what you do.
Okay, so I have a podcast called 1 in 4 Podcast. 1 in 4 stands for 1 in 4 adult Americans has a criminal record. So that means what? That either they end up in jail or not. Many people don't, but far too many do, and usually disproportionately so Black and brown people.
Yes.
So we target the 3 out of 4 people that are not directly impacted by the justice system. And who are these people? These are coworkers, the youth, professional business people, our church community or faith community. So it's our school teachers, anyone who really cares about public safety and has an interest in making sure our communities are safe, and therefore people who come out of prison or jail and have done time, have paid their dues, are reintegrated successfully back into the community.
Right, or more than paid their dues, maybe paid twice or 3 times the dues that they should have paid.
Correct.
And it makes it so hard, it's so tough for people to come back into the world. I mean, first of all, things change, right?
Yes.
Especially now.
Yes.
If you were in prison in 1970 and you got out in 1975, I don't know how much really changed.
Yeah.
If you went to prison in 2014 and you're getting out now, the world is unrecognizable.
Yeah, the people that we have on our show often, so we feature organizations that facilitate reentry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, in the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia area, which is where our first season focuses, we have Together We Bake in Virginia. We have an American Job Center embedded in a jail in Maryland.
Oh, wow.
And we have the mayor's office in D.C. that does a lot of the Aspire to Entrepreneurship program.
Okay, yeah.
That specifically focuses on returning citizens. So, I lost my train of thought. That's bad. Anyways, yeah. And then we also feature voices of people who are coming out of prison and jail and the barriers they face. So we do thematic episodes. Otherwise, it's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, right.
If your listeners may not know, because I didn't know this myself either, that people who come out of prison and jail face a total of 46,000 collateral consequences. 46,000. I mean, that's insane, right? It's like, excuse me. So that means it's different from state to state. It could be just, you're applying for a job and they ask you whether or not you have a felony record. And the moment you have put the check, DC has banned the box.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah. But a lot of states don't. And so the moment a potential employer sees that, your application goes into the trash can. You don't have a chance. But it could also be consequences like you're not allowed to get a certification for walking dogs because you have a felony record. Or you're not allowed to become a beautician because you have a felony record.
Right, so or work with kids, or there's probably lots of things that prevent people from
making a living and reintegrating. Or also you can't access public housing because you have a felony record.
Man. It's really tough. I don't think people fully understand what it means to come out of prison and to deal with that. I mean, even just as an American in the space, in any space, once you fall down, they make it almost impossible for you to get up. The entire system is designed to keep those who are up, and those who are down. So if you get your phone bill or your light bill cut off, not only do you have to pay it, but now you have to pay an additional deposit.
Oh, yeah.
If your credit is not great and you need money, you're paying 26%, where somebody who has money and good credit would pay 4% for that same money. It doesn't make any sense. The people who need it the most should be getting it the cheapest, not the other way around.
Right.
And so the entire system, it's designed. It's the wrong way. It's working, but it's flawed.
It's working in the sense that we were talking before in another conversation we had about what one of our senior advisors who went to prison when he was 19 and did a year in solitary, and he told me that Dave Sampe, and he told me that the system works great. It works by design like this. And he realized that when he went to prison, actually went to the DC jail at the time.
Yeah, which is not a great place.
Not a great place, and it overlooks a cemetery.
Yeah.
And he told me that when he got in there, and he was young, and at the time he thought this was like a rite of passage. It's considered going to prison almost like a rite of passage, a cool thing.
Yeah.
And he got in there, and when he was incarcerated, he saw a sea of black and brown faces.
Right.
And he told me, it just dawned on me, this is not a coincidence. This is by design. It's working great. It's school to prison pipeline.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. And we've had a lot of problems with that in DC because of lack of education and food deserts and all kinds of issues.
Yeah.
That it's been really, really tough for people to like get, I mean, in Ward 7 and Ward 8, for example, there's one grocery store in Ward 8. 65,000 people live in Ward 8, and there's one grocery store.
And I wondered what quality of food is in there. What are the expiration date? This is an issue that really matters to one of our senior advisor, Khadija Clifton. Mm-hmm. She lives in Ward 8, if I'm not mistaken. And she talks about food deserts all the time. She really cares about this issue. She was incarcerated. She's on one of our episodes. And she was pregnant when she was in prison.
Oh, man.
And she speaks about what it was like to be pregnant in prison, in jail, in jail, while awaiting trial because she did not have money to pay bail. And so she was pregnant. It was hard. And you can find it in our feed. We have about 7 episodes out, and Khadija is one of them on employment and reentry because I met her at the Together We Bake graduation, which is a community-based organization in Alexandria, Virginia that specifically works with women coming out, homeless women and women coming out of the prison system.
Which is really amazing. So I gotta ask, like, what inspired you? You know, you're from Italy, so like, and you mentioned that you've traveled around the world, but what brought you to this point? Because this is a very selfless and probably exhausting, yet albeit rewarding, I'm sure at times.
Yes.
But what lit that fire in you?
Well, I think I'm passionate about justice issues overall, which is why I spent 20 years of my life working in refugee camps and documenting. I was a communications person, so I used my skills to share the stories and draw attention and build bridges between like communities in the Congo or Rwanda or Burundi, women, children, child soldiers, and audiences in other countries, including my own, Italy. And then we had an election.
Yeah.
And then I decided that, perhaps it's time to focus domestically and really focus on human rights issues in this country. And I have a dear friend who started a nonprofit called Free Minds Book Club. You might have heard of it. In DC, they're amazing. They work with juveniles that are sentenced as adults. And DC doesn't have a federal prison, as you know.
Right.
They only have a jail. So that means that when they are tried and sentenced, they are sent all over the country.
Right. Which fractures the community so much.
And families, breaks like all kinds of support.
And it's so tough. I mean, I just can't even imagine being a kid and like knowing that your dad is in jail and like seeing him behind the window. Like, it's just so damaging.
It's heartbreaking.
It's so damaging. It's so hard to explain. It just doesn't make any sense. You know, it really doesn't make any sense. So I'm grateful that you're so passionate about it and you care so much, especially someone who's not even from here. You know what I mean? To take such an interest in what's going on. I guess it's a global issue, right?
It's a global issue. I have visited prisons in Rwanda. I've visited prisons in Italy. I think it's a human rights issue. My first job out of college with Amnesty International. So I guess rights issues really kind of rubbed on me ever since I worked for Amnesty. I mean, it's like I'm kind of stuck with it. And so I look at everything from a rights base. And it's not that I get it right all the time. I have my own implicit biases.
Right.
You know, I've been reading White Fragility, right? I have to read White Fragility. I'm a white woman. I have biases. I have been socialized in a certain way.
Right.
It's fascinating.
It is.
And also I've been listening to like Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yeah.
He was recently in DC.
Yeah.
I've listened to him on different podcasts. We talked about Malcolm Gladwell. Phenomenal. I have so much to learn.
Yeah.
So I'm passionate about this issue. I have a kid who's originally from Kenya. So I have We are an interracial family or a multiracial family. I need to understand how she's perceived by the world and what are the risks if she goes around with a hoodie on her head, even though she's a girl.
What does that mean?
She does look like a boy from the back. When she walks, she's still little.
Right.
So what does that mean? So, yeah, but Molly, it's not an easy topic. You and I are passionate about this. Most people hear the word prison and they're like, oh, no, I want to be entertained. I want a light topic. I get it. But these are stories of courage and resilience and hope. So I don't want people to turn away. I hope people get inspired to, it's just a half an hour episode. Sometimes we have sidecasts, like deeper dives that are shorter, 10 minutes.
Right. We
have featured a phenomenal young man who lives in DC who has opened his house to host returning citizens because it's a transitional, because they don't have enough housing. I mean, how generous is that?
It's that's what it takes, right? It's like the Margaret Mead quote,
walk, what is it? It's be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah, well, and never doubt that a small group of concerned citizens can make all the difference, right? Something along those lines.
Yes.
And I agree with that. So, where can people find the podcast? How can they support your mission?
Yes.
What can we do to help?
Yes. Thank you so much for asking. Well, you can download our podcast 1 in 4 from any podcast app like Spotify, Stitcher. You can find us. You can find on Apple Podcasts. We're a small team, 5 people. My co-host is Tim Nicholson. Grew up in Oklahoma next to a correctional facility. Had friends in the correctional facility as inmates. Had many friends were guards because it's a source of jobs.
Right.
In rural America, prisons are a source of jobs.
100%.
So and we need supporters.
Yeah.
We had a donation recently that enabled us to pay the sound engineer and some of our returning citizens that work with us. They definitely need to get paid. And so, we need donations. We want businesses that are willing to hire returning citizens to also support this podcast. So we can educate, we can humanize, educate, and elevate these conversations. Really important.
I agree.
We give back promotionals. We can say this episode is brought to you by the Marriott.
Right.
Or we can say this episode is brought to you by Giant. And so anyone can find us and anyone can reach out and help us.
And tell us the name of the podcast one more time.
1 in 4, as in 1 in 4 adult Americans has a criminal record.
And you're on all the podcast platforms.
Yes. If you don't find us, you might want to attempt to put my last name, Spadacini, but you might not. You can put Nicholson. It's easier. But you'll find us. Usually people pull us up.
Awesome. Well, I am excited to spend more time with you and connect in DC and see how I can help, further this mission and amplify the voice.
And train some of our people.
I would love to. I would absolutely. That would be. That's important to me, and I would love to be a part of that.
Great.
Awesome.
Thanks, Molly.
Thank you.